who dedicate their lives to ensuring that their students excel wherever they go. They are entrusted with the protection and support of children. So when a teacher breaks the law, their standing within the community makes their crimes all the more baffling. In fact, there are numerous teachers who ignore the sanctity of their profession and do vile, unjustifiable things. Many have committed unspeakable crimes that land them in jail for a long time and left their students traumatized for life. Here are 15 real teachers who are rotting in jail. Number 1. Brittany Zamora. Brittany Zamora was the 30-year-old former teacher from Goodyear who was arrested by cops in March of 2018. The victim's parents contacted authorities when they found inappropriate text messages between the pair. The boy was a student of Las Brisas Academy of Goodyear, and he told the investigators that he indulged in intimate activities with Zamora in her car several times. The boy was 13 years old, and his stepmother was the one who noticed that he was acting suspiciously. He wanted to keep his bedroom door shut at night. The stepmother decided to install a parental monitoring app called Sentry on his phone and subsequently began receiving alerts regarding inappropriate texts on his phone. She then confronted the boy, who confessed to being in a relationship with his teacher. According to court documents, authorities revealed that Zamora groomed the boy through special attention, explicit texts, and photos of herself. Zamora abused the boy several times during this illegal relationship. She entered a guilty plea in 2019 at the Maricopa Superior Court, Phoenix, and apologized for her actions. She asked the victim and his family for forgiveness in her statement. She also said, "I'm a good and genuine person who made a mistake and regret it deeply. I lived my life respecting and trying to obey every law. I'm not a threat to society by any means." Brittany was sentenced to 20 years in prison, and she's currently serving her sentence at the Arizona State Prison Complex. She got her tutor certification in prison in September of 2022 and began teaching academic subjects to other inmates. Number 2. Harry Wirawan. The 36-year-old Harry Wirawan was a teacher at an Islamic boarding school in Indonesia. The shocking case rattled the entire nation and sparked outrage among the masses. The need to protect children in Indonesia's religious boarding schools was spotlighted by this incident. Between 2016 and 2021, Harry groomed the 13 girls. He was sentenced to life in prison back in February 2022, but the prosecutors who filed for a death penalty and chemical castration filed an appeal. Afterwards, a statement by a judge was posted on the Bandung High Court's website in which he said, "We hereby punish the defendant with the death penalty." Harry's lawyer refused to comment when he was asked about the appealing decision. He said that he needed to see a full ruling from the court. The Indonesian officials, including the Child Protection Minister, also backed the calls for a death penalty. However, the Human Rights Commission of the country stated that it was not appropriate. Wirawan was brought to court in handcuffs and he kept his head down while the judge sentenced him. The court also stated that the restitution for the victims will be paid by the government. During the trial, it was also revealed that he targeted the students hailing from poor families who are attending the school on scholarships. Number 3. Jennifer Fichter. Jennifer Christine Fichter is a former American teacher. She majored in English and earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from University of Florida. Jennifer held instructional teaching positions at Robbinswood Middle School, Orange County, Florida, between August 2007 and December 2008. However, she resigned pending the outcome of an investigation for alleged offenses of inappropriate behavior. Later, she was teaching at the Central Florida Aerospace Academy in Lakeland when she was fired by the Polk County School Board on April 22, 2014, after she was arrested for having intimate relationships with 3 of her male students. All 3 students were 17 years old, and she abused them more than 37 times between August 2012 and April 2014. One of her victims was a junior in Fichter's English class, and at the time, the two communicated using a texting application, which he had downloaded for his iPod as he didn't have a cell phone. He also told authorities that some of their intimate encounters happened in the boys' room while his mother was away. Fichter was being held in the Polk County Jail with a bond set at $520,000. On the 2nd of July 2015, she was sentenced to 22 years in prison after being convicted. The Polk County judge called her a predator during the sentencing. The judge also came under fire for an unusually strict and long sentence, particularly in Europe. However, the judgment prevailed and Fichter is currently serving her sentence in Gainesville Correctional Facility. She's scheduled for release in January of 2035. Number 4. Todd Clark. Todd Robert Clark is a longtime local teacher and high school basketball coach. The 52-year-old A.I. Jedlicka Middle School teacher was arrested in August 2021 for grooming and assaulting a former student. He manipulated and threatened her to coerce her into silence, but the victim finally spoke up. According to her, she found herself trapped in a gruesome cycle she didn't even understand. Clark accepted responsibility for his action in court but was unable to draw any leniency from the presiding judge, who called the case a parent's worst nightmare. Clark had pled guilty to a felony count of third-degree criminal conduct. He confessed to developing a relationship and engaging in intimate acts with the girl for years. The abuse began when she was just 15 years old. Because of her age and Clark's position of authority, the victim had no ability to grant consent, and the acts therefore constitute assault. The former 8th grader was in Clark's algebra class. She said that they began meeting outside the school premises, and Clark made advances that seemed inappropriate to her. The victim's mother told the court that the incident had immeasurably impacted her family, as they faced hate comments and gossip in the school community since her daughter sought help from another teacher. Clark was sentenced to 4 years in prison. He was placed in handcuffs and immediately taken from the courtroom by the deputies to begin serving the sentence. Number 5. Mark Ackett. Mark William Ackett is a 52-year-old teacher who taught fashion design and coached girls track at Bloomingdale High School in Tampa, Florida. Back in September 2018, when one of his students, a 17-year-old girl, was changing clothes in a dressing area inside a fashion design classroom, she noticed a box on a shelf with light coming from it. According to investigators, the girl found a cell phone recording of video inside the box and informed the school's principal, who in turn contacted the sheriff's office. At the time, investigators discovered 2 cell phones, 3 digital cameras, and multiple memory devices in Ackett's classroom at the Valrico school. According to the documents released from his arrest, Ackett admitted that he had been secretly taping students since 2017. He pled guilty to 324 counts of video voyeurism and could have faced life imprisonment. However, the judge in the case said that he didn't deserve the maximum sentence. Ackett was sentenced to 15 years in prison back in May of 2021. And after serving his time, he will have served 15 years offender probation. The state attorney's office revealed that Ackett had recorded 125 students and 1 employee in the school changing room. Andrew Warren, the state attorney, tweeted after the sentencing that he got what he deserves, an appropriate, lengthy sentence for victimizing our children. The packed courtroom showed the scale of the damage he did to our community. Now our focus returns to supporting these victims as they try to move forward with their lives. Number 6. Craig Slater. Craig Slater is a 40-year-old former IT teacher at the Birdshaw High School in Ashton and Makerfield. He made his first contact with his victim, a 15-year-old boy he met on a dating app called Grindr. Slater then groomed the boy in a sophisticated and highly effective manner between June and November 2019. The boy had told Salter that he was 16 initially, but later revealed that he was only 15 years old. He demonstrated considerable lack of insight and remorse regarding his actions, according to the disciplinary panel. In April 2021, Slater pleaded guilty to 5 counts of intimate activity with a child, 3 counts of possessing indecent images of a minor, engaging in illicit and inappropriate communication with a child, and more. He was sentenced to 5 years and 3 months in prison. According to reports, his conversations with the victim were vile and disturbing. He even said it would be a problem if the boy turned up to their meeting dressed in his school uniform. The judge told Slater, "The fact that you worked as a teacher, the fact that you must have understood the impact of this type of offending could have upon teenage boys, the fact that you understood the safeguarding and particular vulnerability associated with someone in the age of the complainant neutralizes any mitigation you otherwise have been able to draw from your long service as a teacher." Later, a spokesman for Birdshaw High School announced that Slater's contract had been terminated. Number 7. Julie Morris. The 44-year-old primary school deputy head teacher was also the safeguarding lead at St. George's Central C of E Primary School in Wigan. She, along with her partner David Morris, were arrested for repeatedly filming themselves abusing and assaulting a girl. The offenses are not related to Morris's employment at the school. Beside the abuse and inciting of a child, she also admitted to 3 counts of making indecent images of a child. Their sordid secret was revealed when police discovered a conversation about abuse of minors involving David Morris in a phone seized during a search warrant execution. The recordings of their criminal activity were shown in court. Julie was seen laughing as the abuse took place. The couple was arrested while trying to evade police and were heading to the Lake District. David Norris pleaded guilty to 34 offenses and was sentenced to 16 years in prison, while Julie was sentenced to 13 years, 4 months, plus 4 years on extended license. It was also revealed that though Julie never abused any of her pupils, she did send candid photographs of them to her partner that she had taken during the school day. However, none of these photos were indecent in nature. Number 8. Ricardo Ortiz. Ricardo Ortiz, a 31-year-old teacher at an El Paso school, began chatting with a 14-year-old on social media. Only he turned out to be an undercover FBI agent, according to the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Western District of Texas. The local teacher was trusted by students and parents to serve as a role model. Instead, he turned out to be a predator, going after teens, according to the special agent in charge of FBI El Paso Division. Ortiz pled guilty to 3 counts of coercion and enticement of a minor and 1 count of possession of child exploitation materials in March of 2022. The FBI agent posing as a 14-year-old boy met him on the Grindr dating app in 2020. In explicit messages, Ortiz had asked the boy for photos and talked in detail about intimate acts he wanted to do. He was greeted by FBI agents when he arrived at a home to meet the undercover agent in July of 2020. He was arrested as part of Operation Cerberus, an undercover FBI online sting operation to stop coercion and enticement of children. Ortiz was sentenced to life in prison for the charges. Number 9. Carrie Cabri-Witt. Carrie is a former Decatur High School teacher who taught history, psychology, coached the girls' gold team and JV cheer team at the school. She was arrested in March 2016 for having intimate relations with 2 of her male students, according to court records. The Alabama school teacher once claimed that it was her constitutional right to have physical relations with her 2 students aged 17 and 18 years. She was charged under the 2010 state law with 2 counts of a school employee. Witt insisted that she was being prosecuted for a consensual relationship only because of her job, as the age of consent in Alabama is 16. A now retired Morgan County Circuit Court judge also agreed that the law was unconstitutional and dismissed Witt's case. However, the ruling was revised by the Alabama Court of Criminal Appeals and sent back to the lower court. The charges against her were reinstated. Witt's trial was set to begin, but she entered into the blind plea with prosecutors. As the deal came without an agreement on a sentence from the district attorney's office, she faced up to 20 years in prison. Her 5-year-long controversial case finally came to an end with the sentencing in July of 2022. She was sentenced to 10 years in state prison, although most of it will be served on probation after spending 18 months behind bars and another 18 months in a community corrections program. Number 10. Chris Dawson. Chris Dawson is a former high school physical education teacher from Australia. His case became popular after it was covered in the 2018 podcast by Australian investigative journalist Hedley Thomas called Teacher's Pet. Dawson, who's 74 years old, was convicted of taking the life of his own wife. He was found guilty of killing Lynette Dawson almost 40 years ago while pursuing an affair with his former student and teenage babysitter. Lynette's body was never found, and there weren't many leads until 2018, when the podcast renewed public interest in the case and eventually led to a fresh police investigation. Dawson was driven by his possessive infatuation with his former student, according to the judge, who sentenced Dawson to 24 years in prison with a non-parole period of 18 long years. Harrison also said that Dawson isn't old by contemporary standards, but he will not live to reach the end of his non-parole period. Dawson, however, kept on insisting that he was innocent throughout the trial. Lynette's brother, Greg Sims, thanked Hedley Thomas for his service. Dawson took the life of an innocent person just to move his schoolgirl lover into the family home. According to the judge, he did this for the selfish and cynical purpose of eliminating the inconvenient obstruction she presented to the creation of the new life with the babysitter. Dawson may have avoided Judgment Day for 4 long decades, but he eventually landed where he deserved to be in the first place: a prison. Number 11. Kirk Shipley. Shipley was the 48-year-old high school teacher and rowing coach at the former Walt Whitman High School in Bethesda, Maryland. He worked at MCPS for almost 20 years. According to court documents, Shipley was arrested for abusing 2 former students and rowers in the crew team on several occasions between 2013 and 2018 at his home in the district. Jennifer Gross, a Whitman alum and parent, had written a letter detailing issues in 2018 in MCPS's response to the reports of the student abuse. She said that she blames the district for their victim-blaming procedures. Shipley pleaded guilty on June 3rd this year in Washington, D.C. Superior Court to charges of first-degree abuse of a secondary education student and possession of explicit material of a 17-year-old student. According to an affidavit filed to the court, Shipley bought his first victim an inappropriate toy as a graduation gift. Text messaging from him to the first victim also contained harrowing details. He was arrested in August of 2022, but in return for his guilty plea, several of the charges against him were dropped. He was sentenced to a 3-year prison term, and after completing it, he will serve 2 years on probation. Shipley will also be forced to register as a offender for life. Number 12. Justin David Rapier. Justin David Rapier is a 41-year-old former high school teacher at the Highland High School. He was arrested on January 20, 2022 by the Washington County Sheriff's Office for exploitation and abuse of a minor. According to an affidavit, Rapier engaged in an intimate relationship with the student while she was still attending school there. He also allegedly abused this girl in his Cedar Rapids home on 2 occasions while he was employed at the Riverside Hughes School in Oakland. The student told the police that it occurred on August 10, 2019 and again in May of 2021. Rapier pleaded not guilty to the charges. The arrest report says that the language arts teacher allegedly had intimate contact with the girl and sent her messages by text and social media between 2017 and 2022. Unfortunately, Rapier was only sentenced to 2 years in prison after being convicted of exploitation by a school employee. The Washington County attorney, in a statement, said the law provides a light prison sentence for someone that caused a lifetime of hurt. Number 13. Alexandria Vera. Alexandria Vera was a 25-year-old teacher who was arrested for doing the unthinkable a few years ago. Alexandria was a teacher at the Aldine ISD's Stovall Middle School. She was arrested for engaging in a long-term male student. Vera claimed that the victim's parents were not only aware of their relationship, in fact, they approved of it. She pled guilty to a charge of aggravated assault of a child before the court. During their relationship, the boy also allegedly but she later got an abortion according to the court documents. The prosecutors told the court that Vera told investigators that the victim's parents were very supportive and excited when they found out about her pregnancy. The middle school English teacher was hoping to avoid prison and just get off with probation when she pled guilty. But the state district judge who sentenced her to 10 years in prison stated that this strict sentence was intended to send a message and make her an example. He also said that he was aware that there were too many similar cases out there and that he wants the educators to teach the students and keep their hands off them. Vera's therapist, who testified for her in court, said that she believes Vera was driven by being in love with the boy. She had seen domestic violence while growing up and had a deep need for love. Initially, Vera was charged with continuous abuse of a child that carries a maximum life sentence in prison, but she pleaded guilty to a lesser assault charge later and received a 10-year sentence with possibility for parole in 5 years. Number 14. Eric Paul Contreras. Contreras is a former Byron P. Steele II high school teacher who was accused of having an inappropriate relationship with a student. The 45-year-old faced 3 counts of assault, 2 of indecency with a child, indecent contact, and 1 of an improper relationship between an educator and a student. All 6 charges were second-degree felonies. Cibolo Police Department officials found out about the allegations back in 2020 when a student came forward. Afterwards, Contreras was placed on administrative leave in March of 2020. However, he resigned shortly before being taken into custody. He turned himself into the Bexar County Adult Detention Center back in 2020. In a news release, the police department wrote, "The safety of our community and especially that of our students is top priority. The Schertz-Cibolo Universal City Independent School District is fully cooperating with the investigation and remains a vital partner in the safety of our students and community." His arrest came only a month after another Steele High School teacher was arrested on March 7, 2022, in charges of indecency with a child. Contreras made a plea deal with the Guadalupe County prosecutors in November of 2022 and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. He worked previously at Dobie Junior High School, and his teaching certificate was still under review by the Texas Education Agency's Educator Investigations Division at the time of his sentencing. Number 15. Christopher Pickup. Christopher Pickup is a former head teacher who taught at 2 Oldham primary schools in the 1970s and 1980s. He was a head teacher during the latter years. He is now 76 years old. Earlier in 2022, Pickup was found guilty of 37 offenses of assault following a trial. Daniel Calder, the prosecutor, said that Pickup was admired and respected by his colleagues and parents. He was described as a teacher everyone loved. But there was another sinister side of the man, which 19 boys fell prey. During the class, he would invite the child up to his desk and make the child stand at his side. This offered an obstructed view of what he did to the victim. He would inappropriately touch the boys over clothing during that time. When he moved to a new school, he became head teacher. He engineered situations that provided him access to the boys. These incidents almost always took place in the headmaster's office. However, it wasn't always private. It was revealed that he did this in public areas like classrooms and badminton courts too. He took advantage of the trusted place in him by the children, which allowed him to offend in plain sight more than a decade and get away with it for even longer. In September of 2022, Pickup was sentenced to 10 years in prison. The judge commented that the very least his victims deserved was an apology and acknowledgement, but even 50 years later, Pickup offered nothing, nor did he show any remorse for the trauma he caused. Pickup was also ordered to pay court costs of £58,760 and sign as a sex offender in the registry.